Recently, I participated in the MechJam VI game jam. I never joined a game jam before, but basically, the way it works is you get a certain length of time to make a game, following a specified theme, and at the end, your fellow game devs vote on each other's games to win bragging rights, I guess. The only rule of this one is that your game had to feature a humanoid robot, i.e. a mecha. I chose this one because I think giant robots that make no physical sense are really cool, and I like the aesthetic of this logo. It reminds me of that 90s nostalgia from before I was born anime art style. Before I started, I got thinking, what kind of game should I even make? Unlike other jams, we kind of knew the theme already, so I was kind of just able to think of ideas before it started. I had just released a disorienting puzzle gravity bending rhythm game like a month ago. Why don't I take some of what I learned from there and put it on here? Oh yeah, by the way, this video is sponsored by me. I made Metro Gravity, go buy it if you want. I have a playlist of devlogs if you need more convincing. So I decided that this would be a rhythm game, but I'll try all the things I decided not to do in Metro Gravity and see how it would feel in this game. So in Metro Gravity, you did not have to attack on beat. You still needed to block in time, but you could basically attack whenever you wanted. Also, another main thing was that the bosses were just scripted fights that always took the same time no matter how well you played. And I just threw in a high score to make it interesting. Obviously, it kind of worked since people did find it interesting, but I wanted this to be different. So on July 24th at 3 a.m., the jam started. This took until 8 a.m. I could get events to sync up to the rhythm. I had a little 2-bar loop. Life is good. I'm gonna go to sleep. Don't worry about my sleep schedule. I wake up the same day at something ridiculous PM and I decide to make a character. We need a mech, right? Luckily, before the jam, I drew this concept art of a giant mecha samurai and was imagining that you would pilot this thing through a space station. In this jam though, there were a few optional themes to spice it up. I thought insects sounded cool, so I took the concept art and added these butterfly jet wings. Makes zero sense, they're not even attached, but it's sick. It got me thinking about how creativity can be helped by following a limitation. You give someone a blank canvas and they don't know what to draw, but you tell them, I bet you can't draw a robot insect, and they suddenly do know what to draw. So I put it in the game. And then the next day I made these little flying enemies that hover in front of you and shoot at you. And you can attack and parry their attacks with my event syncing system. The day after that, I gave the enemies these little ant models to follow the insect theme, and I added this heat bar. I thought it'd be cool if parrying was more rewarding than just blocking damage. Another difference from Metro Gravity. And it would give you some resource that you would want to keep topped up constantly. Heat increases your attack damage, and you lose it when you take incoming damage, and it slowly decreases over time. This incentivizes being good at the game. So, the enemies can shoot you now, but wait, there's no windup. I tried just adding this circle thing for Metro Gravity, but it was too hectic. Sometimes you couldn't see who was attacking. They could be behind you, they were all over the place. I just didn't like it. I also wanted to do something different instead of just copy pasting. So I copied and pasted Guitar Hero. I created the onboard combat prediction algorithm. It tells you when enemies are gonna attack. Now, I also felt like this should be a roguelike for whatever reason. I could have done some cool generation algorithm, and that would have been a cool learning experience, but I wanted to stay inside my comfort zone like a loser. So I made these little chunks of levels and had random enemies spawn in set locations. Oh yeah, and by now the combat was starting to look somewhat like what I have in my head. And I even put these little quick time events for special moves. I was thinking that if I was going to continue with this game, I would have different characters and different mechs you would pilot with different abilities with their own little rhythmic patterns you have to do to activate their abilities properly. I also added a currency which could be spent on abilities, which I thought created more moment-to-moment choices, which spiced it up a little bit. Like you could either do a spin attack now for more damage, or you could save money to have more healing later. Now, by this point, it's been a week. I decided I was sick of looking at placeholders, and I textured everything. I'm not gonna lie, I really like the art style I went with. It gives it a kind of ambiguous, old pixel art, grungy aesthetic. Like you look at anything and you go like, what is that? Is that like a pipe? A radiator? A screw? And I like how the UI is in your face. I knew it was a bit overbearing, but I like how it feels like you're strapped into this clunky, low-tech, absolute feat of engineering. The thing I like about this art style is that it's easy too. I just go in A-Sprite and I set the color to index, I take some random part of a texture, loser. Shout out to this guy, by the way. And it's just fucking gnarly every time. Look at this. And then I can just change the palette to whatever looks good. This is obviously a super well-known technique and I've seen it around, but I'm happy I stumbled upon it by accident. It's not the first style I chose though. Before I landed on this one, I tried to make my own textures by hand. I mean, I did it before, right? I had this vague image of like an arcade game, but also the Evangelion 90s anime aesthetic somehow. Whatever. Look, I'm warning you, it's gonna look like shit. I don't know what I was thinking. Okay, I'm out of my element for this sci-fi stuff. I tried coping with the barf green and like trying to tweak the colors and brightness, but eventually I just couldn't move on. Something had to be done. I replaced my drawn textures with realistic chunks of the same things. Oh yeah. And then I accidentally pressed index. Oh man, wrap it up. We're done here. Now, you could fight enemies. There's a little procedural levels. The next thing I had to do was make the game like a full game. Yeah, I could have just left it at that, but I thought in the spirit of the game jam, it should be able to stand on its own. Like I made a game in 2 weeks that could be expanded upon if need be, not just the start of a non-existent game. Anyways, a proper roguelike with interesting choices, builds, different runs, replayability would take a lot of work that I don't really have that much experience in. I don't know if I could do that in this time frame. I have random rooms and semi-random enemies, but it doesn't really affect gameplay. So I decided to stay in my comfort zone like a loser again and make a linear story experience. I made a dialogue system and came up with a little story. I wanted to have some impact too, like really fuck you up. I once saw a set of Instagram images and it told such a sad story with so few words and images and like one character, and in 5 minutes I was crying. Like, how did they do that? So I tried to do that with some character dialogue and a tragic ending. I don't think it's crying material though. It's more like, huh? What? Oh damn, that sucks. And then the title screen shows up. Wait, I did that already. Oh, okay, I can't lie. I cooked with the title screen. I can't even be humble, okay? And I added a tutorial so you could actually understand how to play. And I added these hit effects to everything. Also, shout out to this guy. Trying to make a game in such a tight time frame has forced me to be more efficient. In Metro Gravity, each enemy had its own blueprint. Sure, there was a bunch of common code shared by all enemies, but a lot of the code is unique. It kinda sucks. It's not student script or global story array bad, but it's a little bad. I somehow did it for 18 enemies and 5 bosses. Check out Metro Gravity. But for this game, I think I needed to have separation of data and code. Basically, I needed data-oriented programming. If I wanted new behavior, I'd have to code it. But if I want to make a new individual enemy that uses those behaviors, all I should have to do is type some stats into a spreadsheet. Oh, and I haven't really talked about enemies, have I? There's 4. The soldier ant shoots you on the downbeat. The fire ant once on the downbeat and once on the upbeat. The electric ant is just a piece of shit. I'm sorry to the few people that fought this guy. But anyway, these 3 enemies are the drones. Unmanned vehicles that your sensors can predict, hence giving you the Guitar Hero notes. Combined, they create random rhythmic sequences that you must weave attacks through when you can. If there's one thing I'm proud of in this game, is that it's really fun and satisfying when you actually get in the flow state. That's why I kept going with it, honestly. If you couldn't tell already, I'm not as passionate about this, but when I play it, it is addicting somehow. I think it's good to always have at least a basic amount of fun, even when there's no interesting mechanics happening. Like just having a player character that's fun to move. Oh, I forgot about the boss. I wanted the boss to be an interesting subversion of what you normally do in the game, not something completely different, and I needed it to test your skill. So I made the boss a manned enemy, a human piloting a mech like you. That means your guitar bar cannot predict their attacks, but you, the main character, are known in the Chrysalis Corporation for being adept at fighting humans. So that means I just give you sound cues for the rhythm that they're about to do. Diegetically, it's the player inferring their next attack for you. It's just Hi-Fi Rush when they do the thing, but it's okay. Great artists steal from multiple sources. Now, August 7th rolls around, the end of the game jam, and I release this game with no playtesting or feedback to be judged by my peers, and I close my eyes to go to sleep. When I wake up, I find out that, as always, it's way too hard. It's hard to see the enemies, the rhythm is tight, there's too many enemies thrown at you right away, so I started working on a quality of life patch. So what did I learn this experience? I learned how to auto-fit text into a container when it wants to work. I learned how to fit containers to text. I got some data-oriented programming practice, that cool indexing art style, and I learned that game jams are pretty cool, actually, because you get to play a bunch of other games by other people that you would have never played otherwise. Overall, it was a pretty chill experience. I didn't bust my ass. I ate out with my friends a few times. I hear stories where some game jams, people will have like 48 hours and they come out of it sweating and burnt out, no sleep, running on 100 calories. Like, no thanks. So soon after it released, I added everyone in my Discord server about the game. I kind of expected like 2 or 3 people to pick up the game and talk about it, since it was free and similar to Metro Gravity, the reason you're all there. But then after like a whole 3 days, nobody mentioned it. Like, not one person. Y'all were talking about Mecha Break. I was so depressed, like, damn, they only like me for my Metro Gravity. But then I realized I can just make whatever I want. I was worried that people will expect similar games from me and like ignore me if I try to do something else, like a first-person shooter or something. But then I dropped basically the same shit for free and no one cares anyway. Hell yeah. But if I'm being fair, a few of you guys did try it out and I'm thankful that you did. I appreciate it. I also did drop it unannounced, so I don't know what I was expecting. I also spent like 6-7 hours figuring out how to decode MP3 and WAV files, so now you get to put your own songs in the game. Pretty cool, huh? The UI is nice too. I let you do like mixing with sound effects so you have the right volume. But honestly, my biggest regret is not making Mecha Bake, a game where you make giant food for big Godzilla monsters like Overcooked or something. That would have been way better. Anyways, thanks for listening to me talk about this random game I made. Buy this one though, it's better. Like, share, subscribe. Bye.